Hey everyone, and welcome to our early comics preview video. My name is Matt. Andy is still on vacation this week, so it's just me today, though he will be back on Wednesday for our Top Comics to Pre-Order and a Flash and our Infinity Flux letters page video, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But for today, I'm going to go over some of this week's biggest and best books that are coming out. There are some really cool ones this week. Now, the way this is going to work today is because I couldn't quite get to as many books as Andy and I normally do together, I've got about 10 that I'm going to talk to you in detail about. I've got about 5 others that I'm going to kind of speed round through a little bit. And then there are a couple of honorable mentions at the end. If you want to follow along while we're going over this, you can visit infinityflux.net. All of these books are on the website available for order right now. So if you see something you like, you can check out the website and you can order till your heart's content. You can have this stuff shipped to you, or you can come in and pick it up locally. Even if you're hundreds of miles away, it's totally worth the drive. But we are going to get started with the biggest one for this week. This is Absolute Batman #2. Guys, you know the drill with this. This is awesome. The Absolute stuff has been phenomenal. Issue 2 here is just as good as issue #1. So this is written by Scott Snyder, art by Nick Dragotta, just like the first one was. And the first few pages of this book are narrated by Alfred and show us Batman continuing to fight against the party animals. There's a scene that takes place in an aquarium, and Batman does something with water to stop the party animals that is really, really cool. You just have to, you'll know it when you see it. And there's another scene in here. I'm not gonna tell you about it. I don't want to spoil it, but it does involve Batman looking at a building. And that sounds pretty mundane, but when you see it, you will think it's the coolest thing ever, because that's what I thought. So really cool first quarter of the book or so, just Batman doing Batman things. And then a little bit later in the book, we do learn the fate of Mayor Gordon after what happened to him last issue. And we also learn that the former mayor of Gotham, Mayor Hill, he is running for mayor again. There's also a nice scene with Bruce playing poker with his friends, who we know are part of his rogues gallery in the main universe. So that's really cool to see them interact. And we also see that each one of them has a specialty, because Bruce Wayne, not Batman, but Bruce Wayne actually shows them one of the party animals' masks that he said he found when he was cleaning up the site of the attack from last issue. And there's some circuitry and stuff in there. And so he asked them all for their opinions of it. And we see that Edward Nigma knows tech. We see that Harvey Dent knows the politics of what's going on in the city. We see that Oswald Cobblepot knows what's going on with the criminal underworld in Gotham. So it's kind of cool that they each have these unknowing roles to play. They're unknowingly helping Batman. And that's really cool to see. And then Bruce learns that the former Mayor Hill, who is running for mayor again, Bruce learns that he just came into a lot of money that might be connected back to Black Mask. So as Batman, he goes to investigate that, and that is another really cool sequence that I'm not going to tell you about. I don't want to spoil it for you, so I will leave it at that. But this is just another fantastic issue of Absolute Batman. It's every bit as good as the first one, and it's just as over the top, but in the best way possible. I mean that with love, because it's so much fun. And we also see the Batmobile for the first time, which is really cool. They released those images online a while back, so you may have seen that. And if you saw it, you saw how cool it is. But if you haven't seen it, you will see how cool it is, because it is just phenomenal. So another amazing issue of Absolute Batman. I can't wait to see where this story goes. It's so cool to see all the similarities, but the differences. And there's so many different things they could do, and there's so many different directions they could go. I recommend this book wholeheartedly. So we have our A cover right there, and there are some really cool variants for this. This is I believe this is right, yeah, Daniel Warren Johnson. That's the Daniel Warren Johnson cover. That looks awesome. We also have this Jay Lee and June Chung variant. This is the one I pre-ordered. This is the Raphael Albuquerque variant, and this is actually a connecting cover with a cover of Absolute Superman and Absolute Wonder Woman, although I'm not quite sure which numbers, but this will connect with the other two of those to give you like a trinity, an absolute trinity. That's really neat. We have this really nice Dan Panosian cover, very homaging Dark Knight Returns from Frank Miller. That looks really cool. And then, not a variant for number two, but we also have the foil version of Absolute Batman number one Noir Edition. And this is Absolute Batman number one, but just a black and white version. And you can really see the pencils. I've seen some of this, and it just looks so good in black and white. Obviously, the colors in this are great, but seeing it in the black and white is just really cool. We only have a couple of these, so if you want these, I would advise going to infinityflux.net and grabbing yours while supplies last. All right, so let me gather these up, drop them in the box, and we're going to talk about another big one for this week, one that I've been excited for a while. This is G.I. Joe number one from Image, from Skybound. This is just the next evolution, or the next, progression of the Energon universe. We've had Duke and Scarlet and Cobra Commander and Destro, and this is just the next part in that. So this is written by Joshua Williamson, and the art is by Tom Riley. So that's your team from the Duke miniseries. And the first few pages of this book show the Joes on a training mission. And it also kind of serves as a way to reintroduce us to some of the characters that we met during the Duke miniseries. And they're good, and they're working together as a team pretty well. But afterwards, Duke tells Colonel Hawk that even though they're good, they're still outmatched, they're outgunned, they're behind on tech, and if they had to face the enemy today, they would be not in a good place. He uses a different word, but they would not be in a good place. We then get a scene with Cobra Commander and Destro, and they're kind of sort of talking about the same thing in a way, where they're talking about how they don't have enough weaponry. But Destro shows Cobra Commander a weapon that he made that might just change all that. And then there's a couple pages in here that introduce us to this guy right here, and his name is Risk, I believe. And I think he is a new character. I don't remember him from certainly when I was a kid playing with GI Joes. I don't know if he's popped up in the IDW books over the last few years, but he's only in a couple pages. He's not with the Joes. He's doing his own thing. I don't really know what his deal is or what he's doing or how he's going to factor into the Joes. I mean, I guess he's going to join them at some point, right? So there's going to be more to learn about him along the way. And then the Joes are given their first mission, and it has something to do with something that happened in a recent issue of Transformers. I'm not going to tell you what it is or anything about that, but there is a little bit of connective tissue there. And I don't think that's so much of a spoiler to say because we know they're all part of the same universe. We know that G.I. Joe is formed partly to deal with large threats, including giant transforming robots, right? So it has something to do with something that happened in Transformers, but I will say that it does lead them into their first conflict with Cobra, and it's really cool. I read a digital preview copy of this book about a month ago, and the last couple of pages were blacked out. There was something in there that they did not even want retailers to see, but now that I've seen it, it's pretty shocking. I kind of get why they blacked it out, I guess. So I have opinions about how I hope that turns out, but I'm not going to say it here. I don't want to spoil it for you guys. But this is just a really, really fun book. It's like I said, it's a great continuation of Duke and Cobra Commander, Scarlet and Destro. I can't wait to see because there's some characters in those books that are not in here yet, but I'm sure that they're all going to come together at some point. So I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see this book, where this book goes, and to see these two teams grow, both GI Joe and Cobra, because we know there is lots more to come with them. And there's an afterword from Joshua Williamson in the back of this book where he talks about how they are committed to this book long term. And not that I didn't think that they wouldn't be, but just hearing that again, just knowing that they want to make this last for a really long time, just made me feel extra good because this is a really cool story. So if you liked all the other G.I. Joe adjacent Energon Universe books, definitely pick this up. You are definitely going to love it. So there's our A cover right there. And we have some cool variants for this one too. This is our Jerome Opeña variant. And this is our Sozamakia variant with Baroness. We have this Jenny Frizen variant. And I think this is a new character too. I think her name is Chameleon, and she is hanging out with she's hanging out with Cobra, but she's not in this book. So more to come on her, I guess. We've also got this really nice Brett Booth cover with CoverGirl and Tomax and Zammot. This is our David Finch cover right here with Cobra. This is the one I pre-ordered. This is the Lee Bermejo variant. I love the reflection of Duke in Cobra Commander's helmet. This is our blank sketch variant by Nobody. We have this 1 in 10 David Nakayama variant featuring Baroness. We are selling this one for $6.99. There's a 1 in 25 Just Spokes variant featuring CoverGirl that we're selling for $9.99. And there is a 1 in 50 EJ Sue His Tank Design variant, I guess you could call it. We're selling that one for $24.99. Yeah, lots of good G.I. Joe stuff to come. Can't wait for the inevitable crossover with Transformers whenever it happens. I don't know when it's going to happen, but we know it's going to happen at some point. So next for Marvel, we have Psylocke #1, and I really enjoyed this one quite a bit. When I first heard about it, I was thinking, a Psylocke solo book. I'm not really sure what that's going to be like, but I really liked this. Let me get my variants out real quick. So this is written by Alyssa Wong, and the art is by Vincenzo Caratu. And this issue starts with a really cool action sequence of Psylocke rescuing a politician's daughter from a group of kidnappers. And the X-Men don't know that she's on this mission though, and it causes her to be late for a mission briefing. And when she finally gets there, Cyclops just kind of has a sit down with Psylocke and tells her, "Look, you have been working overtime since the fall of Krakoa. You need rest, and I'm benching you for a couple weeks so that you can get that rest." Excuse me. So the solicitation for issue #2 of Psylocke, Andy and I talked about it just a week or so ago. It says that her membership to the X-Men has been revoked, and that's not the case at all. Cyclops literally just says, "You need a break. Take some time off. We're gonna go do this mission. You go get some rest." That's all it is. But she doesn't get much time off before she's contacted by a new character named Devin D'Angelo. This is their first appearance in this issue, but it's established that Psylocke rescued them from a lab in Minneapolis, and now they're kind of like her person in the chair. They're in the front of the computer screen telling her about missions and designing tech for her, like small tech, just things that help enhance her abilities, that kind of thing. And they tell her about a party being hosted by AIM where they are showing off a new batch of mutant growth hormone that they've created, and it's much deadlier than what's been out there before. And then the rest of the book, after she finds out about this party, which is only about a third of the way through, the rest of it is very spy espionage type. It's something. Psylocke infiltrates the party to get some more information about this mutant growth hormone. But of course, she runs into trouble and she learns that there's something even more sinister going on than she realized. So yeah, I was talking about it. It's kind of a spy espionage book. This feels like a Black Widow book, only with Psylocke, and putting her in that role. I mean, she's a ninja anyway, right? So she's a perfect fit for it. But putting her in that role with her powers adds a little bit of extra spice to it, which I thought was really cool. And what she learned at the end of the book makes it seem like this story is going to get even bigger. I'm not sure if this is an ongoing or a mini series, but I really like this one a lot. Like it's one of our From the Ashes books, and it's probably one of my favorites already. I think this was just so good. I really like the artwork and the action. I like seeing Psylocke do ninja things while also like stabbing people with her psychic blade and messing up their mind. Like everything about it was really good. So I recommend this one if you like Psylocke. So there's our issue, or there's our A cover right there. And we got some cool variants for this one too. There's our Nguyen variant. We have an Art Germ variant. That one is gorgeous. And we have a 1 in 25 Yasmin Putri variant that we're selling for $12.99. Yeah, this was. I mean, I thought it would be cool, but I was pleasantly surprised with just how cool I thought it was. All right. Hold on one second. So, next up, we have one that I know a lot of people are curious about. I got a lot of questions about it on my own social media. And so let's talk about it here. This is Amazing Spider Man #61. This is the first part of the Eight Deaths of Spider-Man storyline. This is the first issue of this series not written by Zeb Wells. So this is written by Joe Kelly, and the art is by Ed McGuinness. And the first several pages of this book don't really have much to do with this overall story arc. It's just showcases the old Parker look. Peter is fighting a random villain while trying to save a random innocent citizen. He loses all the stuff that he's carrying, which, he loses some money that Aunt May gave him, and he breaks a vinyl record he was supposed to give somebody as a present, and it just, you know, screws up his life just the way every battle with a supervillain does for Peter Parker. But when this fight comes to an end, when Doctor Doom appears and makes the villain just disappear, because don't forget, Doctor Doom is now the Sorcerer Supreme of the Marvel Universe. So he makes this villain disappear, and then tells Spidey that he wants his help with something, and Spidey basically tells him to shove off. He says, "No, I'm not interested." So a bit later, the city is attacked by this big red, like demon monster-looking thing named Centros, who is one of the 8 scions of the Crimson God Sidorak. And Spider-Man being Spider-Man, he goes out to try to fight him, but he's clearly outmatched. And Doctor Doom appears again to offer Spidey the power he needs to defeat this monster, or this demon. And this time, Spider-Man agrees to take that power, and it's here that everything about what this story arc is going to be is explained. I'm not going to get too much into it. I think there's 2 double-page spreads that sort of fill you in on the whole backstory. So I won't get into it too much, but we do learn about one of Doctor Strange's duties as Sorcerer Supreme, some stuff that he did that nobody really knew that he did, that Doctor Doom is now supposed to do but can't be bothered to do it, and that's why he wants Spider-Man to do it for him. We learned why Doctor Doom chose Spider-Man to do this, and we learned the mechanism by which Spider-Man will be able to die and be resurrected 8 times. Everything is explained in this issue, so don't worry about getting lost and like, why, how's he going to come back, and what is this about him being a magic guy? Like, everything is explained in this user or in this issue. And we do see Spider-Man in his new magic infused costume that gives him the magic that he needs to defeat this monster and to do everything that Doctor Doom wants him to do. And when I first heard about this story, I wasn't like over the moon about it. I'm a Spider-Man fan of 4 decades, and I just like my good street level Spider-Man stories. But I will say, now that I've read this, I thought it was actually really fun. It's goofy comic book fun in the best way possible. It kind of harkens back to the days when Spider-Man had the Captain Universe powers. That's not very street level either, right? But Spider-Man was this big, like, cosmically powered hero for a few issues. I wouldn't want that to be the status quo for forever, but this is going to last 8 issues. It's bi weekly, so it's going to last about 4 months. I thought it was fun, and the artwork by Ed McGuinness was gorgeous. Big action. You've got these big double page splashes. The colors are really bright, pops off the page. So once you get past those first few pages, which don't really have anything to do with the book, and you get into the real meat and potatoes of the story, like I said, I was pleasantly surprised, because I was kind of a naysayer about this story when I first heard about it, but this was fun. So we'll have to see how the other 7 parts go. We do see, guys, this is not a spoiler, okay? It's literally called The 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. He dies in this issue, fighting the big monster he was fighting, and he comes back. And I'm telling you about that now because we see what it looks like when he comes back and what that does to him, and it looks crazy. Like, it's not just he pops up off the ground. He goes through a whole thing, and it looks really cool. So if you've been kind of, wondering what you should do with this series, haven't been really loving what's been going on so far, maybe try this out. Just see what you think about the story. Like I said, I thought it was fun. I'm on board to see where it goes. I hope it stays wacky. I hope it doesn't get too, like, overly complicated, but yeah, I'm down to see where it goes. So we have our A cover right here. We have some cool variants for this one too. I love these. We have this Thing variant. There's a bunch of these where a different character is made up to look like the Thing with orange rock. So that's Spider-Man's version. We have this Gleb Melnikov variant with Spider-Man and Doctor Doom. We have the don't get confused by this. This is the what if Mickey and Friends were Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So this is not an Avengers book. This is Amazing Spider-Man, but this is one of the Disney crossover covers that they've been doing. And we have the 1 in 25. Shoot, I should know the artist. This looks very familiar, but I don't. This is a 1 in 25 though that we're selling for $9.99, featuring Spider-Man and Doctor Doom. So yeah, like I said, I was kind of scratching my head about this story, but now that I've read it, it's pretty fun. All right, so next up we have Black Lightning #1. I think this is going to be a mini series, but this is another of the all-in books, and it's got the same kind of cover dress as all the other ones do. This is written by Brandy Thomas, and the art is by Fico Osio. And the first few pages of this issue show what happened to Black Lightning as he and his daughters, Lightning and Thunder, or what happened to them when their powers were stolen during the Absolute Power event, and how they've been dealing with all of that since then. But then we see Black Lightning and Lightning responding to an incident at Garfield High where a student there has had his dormant metahuman genes activated when he was getting bullied. And it's something that Black Lightning tells him that actually has been happening more frequently since the events of Absolute Power. So they take him up to the Watchtower to get monitored and to fit him with a power dampener until they can help him gain control of his powers and things like that. And but it's not long, they're not up there for long before Black Lightning and Lightning have to go back down to Metropolis to deal with another metahuman incident involving a moving train. And I'm not going to go into the details of that because what happens during that incident is kind of shocking, and it's going to lead into the rest of the series. So I definitely won't spoil that for you. But this is another really good book. It's good to have a Black Lightning book again. The artwork in this is really really good. And I really like this because I've already read Justice League Unlimited #1 that comes out on November 27th, and seeing Black Lightning's role in that book enhances the story here because he is in that role in this too. And this book and Justice League Unlimited, I know that's still a couple weeks out, but these go really well together. These mesh really well together. Maybe I almost wish this had come out after that one, but this is really cool. I think this is going to be a 6-issue miniseries. I don't believe this is an ongoing, but I'm on board. I love that Black Lightning has taken this new sort of I don't want to say a mentor. He's not a mentor to everybody, but he is a teacher, right? He's helping young heroes learn how to use their powers and things like that. Deal with all the craziness that happens since Absolute Power. We see a little bit of that in Justice League Unlimited. We see a lot of that in here, and it's really really cool. So if you're a Black Lightning fan, or if you've been wanting to check out more of the DC All In stuff, I recommend this one quite a bit. And this is the only cover I have. All right, so a quick water break, and then we're gonna go to a new one from Dark Horse, and this is called Arcbound. And this is written by Scott Snyder and Frank Thierry and Tom Hardy, the actor Tom Hardy, and the art is by Ryan Smallman. And this is a sci-fi story that's set in the future. Like this is a heavy sci-fi book right here, and it's centered around this guy right here. His name is Kai, and he is a captain for a group of mediators who are essentially like soldiers or stormtroopers that work for a large company called Xenotech. And Xenotech travels around the galaxy to various planets, drilling for something called chromium. And the job of Kai and his mediators is to go down to the planet and deal with any colonists who get in the way there. Basically, like think of them as like protesters, I guess. I mean, it sounds horrible, and it is, right? But these colonists don't want this big mega corporation drilling in their planet, and they cause a ruckus. And Kai and his group go down there and dispatch them by any means necessary, and I do mean by any means necessary. But after so the first part of this book actually shows all that happening on a planet called Renar. But afterwards, Kai starts to question if they really need to keep doing this since Xenotech already has a bunch of chromium, like enough to last them for like 20 years, I think is what they said. And his questions and his concerns mostly fall on deaf ears, and he's given another assignment to go to another planet and do the exact same thing. And I won't go into it. I don't want to spoil that either, but I will say that he receives some troubling information right before he goes down to that next planet, and it makes him realize that what he's doing is wrong. And then that's the crux of the book is he's supposed to be this guy that basically kills all these colonists, right? But he doesn't want to do that anymore, and now he has some information that shows him, hey, maybe I've been the bad guy this whole time, right? So that's what the whole thing's going to be about. So it's a really cool action-packed sci-fi story. There really is a lot of action in this. After reading the solicitations for this first issue, I was a little bit worried that it would be very, very confusing. But as you read through the book, everything gets explained perfectly. It all makes perfect sense, and the artwork is really good too. It's a bit more stylized and cartoony, but I like that style, and I think that made the story even more enjoyable for me. So yeah, just a cool new sci-fi book. Scott Snyder on board. So if you're a big Scott Snyder fan, you're looking for a good new sci-fi book, I do recommend this. I thought this was a lot of fun. So there's our A cover right there, and then we have this Dan Panosian variant. That's Kai right there. We have this Clay Man variant, which looks really really cool. And then we have this 1 in 10 Rose Besh variant that we're selling for $7.99. Yeah, cool new sci-fi book. And then we've got another one from um, Mad Cave, and this is called String. This is the first issue. This is written by Paul Tobin, and the artist by Carlos Javier Olivares. And this is about this girl right here. Her name's Yoon Suk. She is a 25-year-old Korean American woman, and she has this ability to see two different types of strings, almost literal string. Well, they're not like literal, but she can see these strings that connect people. She sees blue strings that show that connect people who have been intimate with each other, and then she sees black strings that connects murderers to their victims. And so she works as a civilian consultant with the police department to help solve cold cases, tracking the black strings from the bodies to their killer. And she partners up with a detective named Luke Mayfield. And a large part of this issue is her explaining how her ability works while they track down a killer from a murder from 5 years ago. So it's almost like the story in this issue is kind of a one and done, because the main point of the whole series is not the one murder they're investigating in this issue. This issue serves as a way for us to learn about her and her ability and like the different rules. She says, "Oh, there's times when it doesn't work. There's times when it only works for a few minutes." So it's a bunch of exposition wrapped around a murder mystery, and she uses her ability to follow a string to somebody who killed somebody 5 years ago. But the main part, what this book is mainly going to be about, is on the very last page. This is not a spoiler because, again, this is what the series is going to be about. She suddenly sees a black string connected to herself. And that means she is either going to murder someone or somebody is coming to murder her. And that's what the big mystery is going to be. So, this was a cool, new, very unique book. I've never read anything quite like this before. There's a lot of, they do a good job like explaining all the rules about these strings. So, yeah, if you're looking for a cool, new, like, murder mystery, little tiny touch of like mysticism or supernatural stuff, then I think you might like this. So that's our A cover right here, and we have this Chun variant. All right. Next up, we have one that was really fun. Get all the variants out for it. This is Calavera PI #1. This is from Oni. This is written and drawn by Marco Finnegan, and this is set in Los Angeles in 1925, or the beginning of it set in 1925. And this issue in particular is mostly a setup issue, doesn't really get into the real crux of the story until the very, very end. But this issue introduces us to a private investigator named Juan Calavera as he stops a human trafficking scheme near Hollywood. He finds that these rich guys, I don't know if they're Hollywood execs or what, but they're these rich guys, and they're like basically like bringing in girls from Mexico to work at these big extravagant parties they have. So he figures all that out. He breaks it all up. But one night, he is shot and killed. Juan Calavera, like the main character, is shot and killed while trying to stop a woman who is threatening to shoot innocent people in the town square in an effort to see her dead son. She thinks it's part of like this weird ritual thing. And he stops her, but he dies in the process. So 5 years later, so I guess now 1930, a friend of Juan's tries to resurrect him because her son is kidnapped, and the only instructions that she is given from the kidnapper is find the detective. So she's going to do this stuff to resurrect him from the grave, and it's not until the last page that we actually see him actually get resurrected, and he looks like this. So he's a skeleton, I guess, with a trench coat. I don't know if he's got some meat under there or what. But the main crux of this story is going to be him helping his friend get her son back, while also, I think it says he looks into his murder a little bit, but I thought that it was pretty self-explanatory what happened to him, so not too sure. But yeah, this is like a supernatural crime noir detective story, or at least it will be in the second issue. Like I said, everything was set up here, and then we're going to get into the real stuff in the next one. But this was really cool. Like, I really like this quite a bit. There was some cool artwork. There's a lot of duotone, so it kind of looked like sort of an old school book. I like this one quite a bit. So there's our A cover right there. We have this Perez variant, and then we have this 1 in 10 Esteban variant that we're selling for $9.99. All right, so moving on, we got another one from Marvel, and this is Ultimate X-Men number 9. So in this one, there is some news. I'm sorry. In this one, news about the cult known as the Children of the Atom, and how they believe they are a group of Homo superiors begins to spread into the public. It's starting to be not so secret anymore, and this causes Hisako to get bullied at school because her classmates think that she is part of that cult when she's really not. And we also see. Okay, so here's the interesting piece. We see in this the I'm going to go ahead and say the first appearance of the Ultimate Universe version of Akihiro, um, who is Wolverine's son in the 616 universe. And when we see him in this, he looks so much like Wolverine. I actually thought he was Wolverine for a minute, but he introduces himself. My name is Akihiro, and he says that he's the first Homo Superior, and he's strapped to this table. This is at the Children of the Atoms compound, so this is in the cult. He's strapped to this table. He's got all these wires connected to him, and the children. It's clear that the Children of the Atom are experimenting on him. And like I said, it's weird because again, he is Wolverine's son in the 616 universe, and we know that we are getting an Ultimate Wolverine book. But I don't know if there's going to be any connection between the two of them at all. I have no idea. But he did look like I really did think, well, that's Wolverine. Is this going to lead into the Ultimate Wolverine book? But it's not Logan, or maybe Akihira is the Wolverine in the Ultimate Wolverine book. I don't know. I'm not putting that out there at all. I'm just speculating at this point. So a lot of weirdness there, and we also do get a bit of a fight. Like this on the cover actually kind of does happen. A bit of a fight between Maystorm and Surge, and they both have electric based powers. You know, Surge is purely electric, where Maystorm can control the weather. She's a lot like Storm, but she has like lightning powers too. So it was really cool to see that. But yeah, this whole Children of the Atom thing is starting to get pretty interesting. I'm still not loving this book myself personally, but I do think that all the stuff they're doing with the Children of the Atom and how it's a group of kids who have these powers, I kind of think like, oh, maybe this is like this version of the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters instead of it being a school, it's actually a cult. I don't know, but it's pretty neat. So there's our A cover right there, and we have this Peach Momoko design variant, which a bunch of different designs of a bunch of different characters. That guy looks creepy. And then we have this 1 in 25 Derek Chew variant that we're selling for $24.99. All right, so we're gonna jump back to the Energon universe, and we're gonna talk about Transformers number 14. This is the second part of the two-part Starscream centric story that started last issue. Last issue, we got a bit of a look at Starscream's kind of sort of origin, some of his life on Cybertron, how he got mixed up with Megatron and the Decepticons, and in that last in the last issue, we saw him rescued by a sorry, my notes are weird. He is rescued from death by a group of humans who work for Mars Industries, and we saw them pulling up in a his tank, which is really cool. And in this book, we see that he forms an uneasy partnership. Wait a minute, sorry, I read this wrong. So the humans rescued him from death, right? And then they say, "Hey, we should work together." And this is a bit of an uneasy partnership because Starscream thinks that he is too good to work with humans, so, maybe that partnership doesn't last too long. But we do see a little bit more of his backstory on Cybertron, including, like I said, his early days with Megatron. And we see how he evolves from someone who values life to the ruthless killer that he is today. And near the end of the book, he's joined by some other Decepticons who are also not very happy with Soundwave, just like he's not. And if you saw the cover to issue number 15, there is a figure towering over Optimus Prime, but he's all like silhouetted out. This issue kind of shows you who that character is going to be. So just another fantastic issue of Transformers. On the same week we get G.I. Joe. The Energon universe is doing fantastic things right now. So we have our A cover right here. And then this is the cover I pre-ordered by Jorge Corona. That's Starscream kind of merged with a his tank, which is actually happens because his legs are gone. So they fuse him with a his tank so that he can move around. And we have some cool variants, or some cool incentive variants. We have this 1 in 10 Victor variant that we're selling for $5.99. We have the 1 in 25 Jorge Fornes variant that we're selling for $14.99. And we have this 1 in 50 Derek Chew variant that we're selling for $29.99. And holy cow, guys, that is my childhood right there on a cover. That is 1986 Transformers the movie. Well, kind of. I mean, that's where RC showed up, but Jazz wasn't in it all that much. I guess he was a little bit. But yeah, love that cover. That is so cool. All right. So let me get another sip of water, and then these next few books, like I said, I did not get a chance to tackle as many books this week as Andy and I would together. I didn't get a chance to, make as many notes as go and go as in depth as we might normally would. But I've got a few that I'm just gonna, like I said, gonna kind of speed run here. And this is Black Hammer Spiral City #1. This is the next installment in the Black Hammer series. I haven't read too much Black Hammer, but I know there's a lot of fans out there of it. Just wanted to let you know about the first issue of this new series, written by Jeff Lemire. The art is by Teddy Christensen. And this has 3 different subplots, including Inspector Insector moving to Spiral City and trying to get work there as a private investigator. And I'm not really sure where that story is going or how the other 2 stories will maybe end up connecting to it. But a character is murdered at the end of the book, so I'm thinking this might turn into a type of murder mystery. I'm not too sure. I read it, but my lack of knowledge on Black Hammer, I didn't really. I knew the basics, but I didn't really know like the details. I didn't know if we maybe seen these characters before. But like I said, if you are a Black Hammer fan, definitely don't miss this. So there's our A cover right there, and then we have this Mike Mignola variant, which is really cool. And then we've got Uncanny X-Men #5. Cool variants for this. So this is the final issue of the first story arc. Everything that has been going on these first 5 issues kind of gets wrapped up here. Although I'm sure there's going to be some stuff that lingers. This is the final showdown between Rogue and Sarah Gaunt, while the rest of the X-Men and the Outliers, who are those new young mutants, they fight whoever it was that showed up at the end of the last issue. I'm not really sure. It was a whole horde of like these weird monster looking things. I don't really know who they were, but there's a big fight between all of them. And there's also a lot of this that takes place in Rogue's mind while she's fighting Sarah Gaunt. I didn't quite understand it. It was a little bit weird because it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it all takes place in the mindscape, and what happens in here affects what's out there. I didn't quite understand it, but I did like the fight between Rogue and Sarah Gaunt and the other X-Men and all the other bad guys. So the end of the first story arc right here. Of course, this is going to continue. This is an ongoing series, so it's going to keep going. But there's our A cover right there with Gambit. We have this really nice Vecchio variant with Wolverine. I've been loving these variants. And we have a Virgin version of that. Now, the label on this says it's damaged. I don't know if maybe there's a spine tick right there that you can barely see. I'm not sure if that's the only thing on it or not. But we're selling this one for $14.99. And then we have a 1 in 25 Yasmin Putri variant that we're selling for $19.99. And we're going to stay with the From the Ashes era for just a minute. And we're going to talk about NYX #5. This is also the last issue of this first story arc. Kamala and the rest of the group, they're not really a team, right? So I'm trying not to call them a team. But the rest of the group, Lard Kinney and Sophie and the other guys they've been hanging out with, they try to rally the city together to keep a bill from passing that would relocate mutants out of the city, which seems kind of bad. There's all this anti-mutant hysteria, and it doesn't look good for the mutants. Excuse me, but Kamala and her friends try to work to prevent that, and that's all I will say about that. But there is our A cover right there, and then we have this Swaby variant featuring Laura Kinney, who is about to get her own series. And then we've got a couple of Ninja Turtle books. We have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Nation #2. And this continues the 2 stories that were in issue #1. The first one being Raphael reluctantly helping Metalhead break into Area 51. And in this one, he serves as the distraction while Metalhead finds what he's looking for. I'm not quite sure what it is, though. kind of maybe looked like servers or something. I'm not real sure. We'll find out in another issue. And then the second story is mostly just Casey Jones at the Foot Clan compound training with Natsu while he's worried about Karai, who is really acting, who he says is really acting strange. So just want to let you know about the second issue. If you picked up the first one, both of those stories continue in this. So there's our A cover right there. We have a Federici variant. I really love that. Raphael's my favorite Ninja Turtle, so I like seeing him in action. And then we have this 1 in 10 Santaluco variant that we're selling for $9.99. That's basically the second story in the book right here is all this. All right, well I guess that too maybe. And we have another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book. This is, and it's also number two. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles of Grayskull. Wait, it's just called Turtles of Grayskull. Yeah, Turtles of Grayskull number two. And this issue actually starts with a really cool gladiator style fight between He-Man and the Turtles on one side versus a group of Triceratons. And the Triceratons are huge, right? So it's cool to see He-Man fight those guys. And then after that, the issue is a lot of time travel and multiversal tomfoolery as they all try to figure out how to fix everything. The Turtles travel to Eternia to do something. He-Man goes to New York to try to do something, and then Renee, who is she's kind of the time traveler, right? She winds up in Japan in the past at Splinter's dojo, but when he was still just a regular rat. So lots of cool stuff here. I love seeing Ninja Turtles and He-Man together because again, that's my childhood all mashed up in one book. And this is the only cover that I have for that. So that is everything that I was able to get through this week. I did take a couple more books home and kind of read through them, but I don't have enough notes to talk about them intelligently. But these are kind of, I wanted to let you know about these as well. Obviously, you guys know I'm loving everything that DC is doing right now, all the all in stuff. So I can't not mention Batman and Robin number 15, which is the second part of this story arc that they've been telling under the new all in initiative. We've also got Green Lantern number 17. This one is really cool. I need to go back and reread it. There's a lot of stuff going on, and things are getting even crazier for the Green Lanterns, and things are about to start to come to a head on this. So don't miss the second part of this. We also have Deadpool number 8, featuring Ellie, Deadpool's daughter, as she still works to try to resurrect her father, who she thinks it's possible that he could get resurrected. So we'll have to see how that goes. We also have a new one called from Oh, wait a minute. We have Venom number 39. This is I believe this is the last issue of Venom. Well, yeah, I believe that this is the last issue of Venom that ties into the Venom War. Venom War number 5 is the conclusion of the whole event, and that's the next book to come out. There is also Venom War Wolverine, and I believe Venom War Deadpool that comes out this week too. I did not read those ones though, but those are also the last part of those tie-ins to the Venom War. So basically, we just have one more issue of Venom War left, and that's Venom War number 5. And then, last but certainly not least, a new one from Magma Comics called Rome Eternal. And I did flip through this one, and this looks crazy. This is set in a world where the Roman Empire did not fall, but everything still looks like something you would see in the movie Gladiator. Like there's still these big like arenas and things like that, but with crazy advanced technology. Like there's all these flying chariots and energy weapons and stuff like that. So unfortunately, I did not get a chance to read this one. But like I said, it looks really crazy. Imagine Gladiator, but with like crazy technology, right? Like that's a really cool mashup right there. And that is it, guys. That is all the books I was able to get through over the weekend, but some really, really cool ones. And of course, that is not everything coming out this week. You can see everything coming out this week by going to infinityflux.net. We've got all the variants there, all the A covers. So you can order whatever you want, have it shipped to you, or you can pick it up in store. And yeah, so pick whichever, whatever books you like. Obviously, I think, Absolute Batman number 2 is going to go like hotcakes, just as all the other Absolute books have done. I think we've already sold all of our incentives for that. That's why I didn't have any to show you here. I think those have already been snatched up. Like I said, we've only got a couple issues, or we've only got a couple copies of the Absolute Batman number 1 Noir Edition, the foil cover. So go grab those if you want them. But yeah, another big week of comics. We say it every week, but yeah, every week is a big, big week of comics. So again, on Wednesday, Andy will be back with, we'll be doing our top comics to pre-order in a flash, showing you the top 10 books that you can pre-order by this coming weekend. And it's the next episode of our Infinity Flux letters page, where it's live streamed. We interact with you guys live. So if you have any questions that you want us to answer, any topics you want us to touch on, just leave a comment in this video or any other video. We will compile those together and then we will address those on Wednesday. So again, guys, thank you so very, very much for watching. And until Wednesday, see you later.